Anyways, Dominic, your main event of UFC Paris. Once again, see Ciryl Gane in the main event. He's looking to go 2 for 2 in Paris. This time, though, he will be taking on the number 7 ranked Serghei Spivac. He comes in a minus 175 favorite. As it stands today, Spivac a plus 145. I'm just going to hit the elephant in the room here for me personally. I was a bit shocked when I saw these odds.
Okay. Yeah.
I was a bit taken aback. Now I've had time to let it simmer. I am kind of come to terms that it's probably pretty accurate, but I was expecting Ciryl Gane to be a much bigger favorite here.
We're in the same boat here. Yeah.
So, this is a weird way to kind of start this, but I just had to kind of get it out there because Ciryl Gane, the reason you see him only pulling a minus 175 is, of course, the limitations that have been exposed through multiple title fights at this point. You saw what John Jones did to him, barely broke a sweat, took him down, submitted him against the fence, didn't even take a shot.
Yeah.
Before that, he has a lead on Francis Ngannou in his first heavyweight title fight, probably up 2-0. Ngannou implements a wrestling heavy game plan. This is a guy, by the way, who we had never seen that out of. He's known as one of the hardest punchers in heavyweight history. And Ngannou wrestles his way to a decision victory. Dominic, going into that fight, we were talking about Ciryl Gane as perhaps the most talented, the most well-rounded heavyweight of all time.
Yeah.
Tough take when you have the 2 losses that he's had. But it's those 2 losses that have dragged his name through the mud. I mean, I saw Chuck Mendenhall make this point, and I think it's a great point. Typically, in a fight like Gane versus Jones, the fight goes the way it does in real life. Typically, what the majority opinion is afterwards is either, wow, John Jones is really the GOAT. He's the best of all time. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at what he just did to a great fighter in Ciryl Gane. Or they discredit the value of Jones looking that good because they're like, well, Ciryl Gane was never that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those rare fights where both were kind of taking place afterwards. John Jones was getting his flowers. Everybody's called him the GOAT.
Yep.
Also, Ciryl Gane is being labeled like a bum. They're saying he's no good. That his best is behind him. I mean, he's never going to be a heavyweight champion. All that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really showing in these odds here because Serghei Spivac is obviously much heavy, a much wrestle. What am I trying to say here? He is a wrestle heavyweight.
Yeah.
And he does come in on a win streak. He's definitely riding some momentum. He looked really good against Derek Lewis back in February, but he doesn't have those marquee names on his resume. Obviously, the Derek Lewis win has probably aged a little better since Derek Lewis, what he went and did to Rogerio de Lima. But Spivac, I believe, averages about 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. So,
yeah.
If Spivac gets this fight to the ground, Dominic, do you think we will see improvement out of Ciryl Gane, or do you think he's truly just is who he is at this point?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we never see Gane on his back in this fight.
Oh, okay. I like that. You're just like, fuck that question. You're like, he ain't even going on his back.
I don't think Gane is going down. I was shocked by these lines too, because to me, regardless of the holes, if you will, that we've seen from Gane, it doesn't feel like getting him at under minus 200 or lower feels like a steal almost to me. That's how it felt looking at these lines. Spivac is very good, very dangerous, very strong, wrestle heavy, as Noah said, but he's not John Jones. For Ngannou, Gane was winning that fight, as you pointed out, and I still am on the hill that Gane had no readiness at all for Francis to wrestle, and that just came out of the blue and stunned him. So, yes, you probably still should show better wrestling defense against a guy that's not known to wrestle. I will give you that. But then when you see what he did against John, then it was like, okay, there are some holes for sure. But there's just something about this type of matchup, man, that I heavily lean Gane. And I look at Gane and Tom Aspinall as very similar fighters, very athletic, light on their feet, great strikers. Well, look what, and I know it's MMA math I'm talking here, but look what Tom Aspinall did to Serghei Spivac. He ran right through him and made it look easy. I just don't know if Serghei will approach it the way that he should in order to ensure the most success for him. I think he may get caught up in Cyryl's game, and if he does, I believe that's where Gane takes over and runs away with this fight.
I'll be honest. We're in agreement so much on how we think this fight's going to go, but I definitely don't agree with that at the end. I foresee. So I think, if anything, I think Spivac is going to be reckless, looking for takedowns.
Trying to get it, yeah.
I think that is such a elephant in the room. I mean, it's another elephant in the room. There's just elephants in all these rooms here. But you've seen the blueprint to beat Ciryl Gane,
Mhm.
which is something that you are very good at and very comfortable in, and that's wrestling. I mean, you got to go for it, right?
Mhm.
This is a big opportunity for you. I know it's your second main event, but it's a much bigger main event this
Oh,
time
yeah.
around.
This is huge.
Potentially with the win. I mean, Tom Aspinall's going to be cage side. He
Yep.
wants the winner of this fight. It gives you a chance to redeem your last loss in the UFC. And
Yep.
then if Spivac won that, all of a sudden we're talking about Serghei Spivac as a title challenger to Polar Bear, fighting
Mhm.
for a damn UFC heavyweight title. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's a little bit too good to be true. I put 2 units on Ciryl Gane. I got him at minus 166.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning that as well.
I just love him in this fight. Dominic, tell me I'm wrong here. Ciryl Gane was the betting favorite against John Jones.
He at least opened as it for sure. I can't remember the close, but it was
It
never
was close to even, but I'm pretty
exactly.
sure I got
Yes.
John Jones at because I thought it was like plus 100.
And
something
like John
that.
Jones at a pick'em is crazy. You don't see that.
So you're telling me he's going from an essential pick'em with the best fighter of all time to not even a 2-1 favorite against a guy whose best win, his only real win of his MMA career is Derek Lewis? Maybe I'm crazy because I know that styles make fights. I mean, Spivac clearly has that edge. If he gets this fight to the ground, it could be, that could be it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Ciryl Gane. I know when you see guys who have these big holes in their game, their style, you don't want to put too much stock in, oh, well, from the last fight from last year when he lost to Jones to this fight, he's going to be some dramatically improved defensive grappler or have much better takedown defense. Like those kind of improvements do happen, but I don't know if it happens like over
in 5
one
months.
fight. Yeah.
They take years.
Yeah, I guess it is 5 months. I said last year. I don't know what I'm thinking. But however, if you look at really Ciryl Gane's MMA career, it has been,
Yes.
progressing at light speed. This
He
was a
didn't start
guy,
till he was like 27.
and let's not forget, he's a hell of an athlete, one of the
Oh,
best
yeah.
athletes that we've
Oh,
ever
yeah.
had at heavyweight. But he was a basketball player.
Yeah.
And then his career in basketball was sort of, I guess, done. I don't know really the full story there. And he has a guy come be like, hey, why don't you do some Muay Thai?
Yeah.
And then he becomes one of the best strikers in the UFC in just a matter of a few years.
Yeah.
An absolute natural at it.
Mhm.
So to say a guy with his athletic capabilities is not able to make that kind of improvement, I think is not true. I think
Yeah.
he can make those kind of improvements that quickly because that's how good of an athlete he is.
Yes.
The thing is, Dominic, is he going to make those kind of improvements? Does he have the want to be that guy? Does he want to be a heavyweight champion and one of the does he really does it matter to him? Because in theory you would assume yes, but when he lost to Ngannou the way he did, that's where that should have started. We should have seen him look to improve upon that when he fought Jones, and instead, it looked like if anything, it was even worse.
Yeah.
So the wake up call didn't happen the first time around. Is it going to happen this time? I say yes, it needs to. But even if not, I still think Ciryl Gane is a bigger favorite than this in this fight.
Yeah.
What he's able to do on the feet, I know when you look at his resume, what's very interesting about it, Dominic, is outside of those 2 losses, and even in those 2 losses, doesn't fight very many natural wrestlers.
No.
You're talking about Tai Tuivasa, Jairzinho Rosenstruik, Alexander Volkov,
Derek.
Derek Lewis. These are all much more comfortable strikers or brawlers than
Yeah.
not guys that are looking to take you down. And even like Ngannou, the time will tell if that's really a part of Ngannou's game or not. We've yet to
Yeah.
see him fight since then, but it had never been a part of his game really before that. So that is something I noticed and was like, okay, maybe I should cool off on this a little bit. So I kind of accept this as it is what it is. That Ciryl Gane minus 175 probably is fair, but in order for Serghei Spivac to win this fight, he's going to have to be the best version of himself we've seen up to this point.
Oh yeah.
Because Dominic, he's won 6 of his last 7 in the UFC, and that's great. Obviously that jumps off the page compared to Ciryl Gane, who's lost 2 of his last 3. But here's the names of the guys he's beat.
Yeah. Talk to him.
Carlos Felipe by decision. That was a majority decision, by the way. Jared Bandura, TKO'd. Alexei Oleinik, decision win. By the way, none of those 3 guys are still in the UFC, and those fights happened post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Then he loses to Tom Aspinall in about 2.5 minutes. Comes back and TKO's Greg Hardy, no longer in the UFC.
Yeah.
TKO's Augusto Sakai, who has really fallen off from when he was looked at as a promising heavyweight prospect. And then he submitted Derek Lewis, which is, no matter what you think of Derek Lewis, that's a great win.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I do not see it here. This would have to be the best version of Serghei Spivac we have ever seen.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to compare those resumes, that was another reasoning for me taking Gane was like, does Spivac at the same level of competition? We don't even have to go back all the way for Gane's UFC career. We'll start with JDS, Rosenstruik, Volkov, Derek Lewis, similar victory, and then Tai Tuivasa. I don't know if I can say that Spivac beats all of them like Ciryl Gane did, and I definitely don't think he's beaten Francis, and I don't think he's beaten John Jones. So at least in those fights, I felt Gane could. I believe I favored him to beat Francis, and then John was John. I don't think I bet on that fight, but I thought he could beat John at least. So that's kind of where I view this as well. There's just something about Gane, and maybe he just has us fooled. Maybe he's just got us wrapped around his finger. That could be the case. And do you think, Noah, you said Spivac has to have the best performance we've seen to win this fight, and I agree. But if he comes in and does do that, has that best performance, say even dominates this fight, is the narrative coming out that, oh, Spivac is that good and he's made those leaps and bounds? Or is it, well, Gane just can't do it. He just can't wrestle. He's just not meant to be.
I'll put it like this. If Spivac comes in here and has that type of performance we're talking about, and maybe it'll even be like something where it should be he gets the credit, it ain't going to matter.
It's still going to be Gane. Yeah.
The pressure's on Gane here. I mean,
not
only is he coming off just one of the more deflating losses you can have, but now he's main eventing at home in Paris.
Yeah.
That crowd is ride or die for him.
Mm-hmm.
If he comes in here and drops an egg like he's done with John Jones specifically, I don't know if there's any coming back from that.
Yeah.
He it's hard to say like afterwards, like, oh, I mean, obviously he's not going to be cut. He's not
right.
We're not talking about that. But I think there's no coming back from it. Like, I don't know if there is a route for him to really capture what he did in what was that, 2021, if he loses this fight.
I think I agree.
So if with that being the stakes, we're kind of agreeing to that. If this doesn't wake him up to the limitations he has and that improvement is needed, then I don't know what will. I just think that he just doesn't want it that much. I mean, and I guess this might be a kind of afterwards, but no matter who wins here, is Tom Aspinall kind of who they're taking on next, you think? Do you think that the way Aspinall played his hand there kind of sets that up perfectly?
Yeah, I think it's perfect. He's there, set that up as a number one contender fight, and they just announced today that Pavlovich will be the backup for Jones and Stipe. So that kind of solidifies that he's going to be next, regardless of who's the champion. Aspinall gets the winner here. I think it's perfect.
Pavlovich, man, that dude is back to back. He's a back-to-back backup fighter. He's chasing John Jones, man.
He's hunting that title right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I tend to agree. I feel like there's more interest if Ciryl Gane does come in here and kind of do similar things to maybe what he did against Tuivasa last year.
Mhm.
Yeah, now the last year
That one
is
was last
good.
year.
Now I'm like having to second guess myself. But if he does something similar where it's just a great performance or a great fight, I think there's a lot of interest in him and Aspinall.
Oh.
If Spivac comes in here and does really well, it's great for him. But man, I don't have that. Maybe I'll feel differently if Spivak really does it because I'm definitely lower on him, it appears, than
Yeah.
what Vegas is, what
Mhm.
probably a lot of people are. But Aspinall, I mean, we're talking September of 2021 when Aspinall, I mean, just
Ran
put him
through it.
away in 2
Yeah.
minutes. I feel like a fight with Spivak is a lateral step to like a Tibura.
So you're viewing it from Tom there then. I see.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
weird. I mean, Spivak
Okay.
really, I mean, it's so weird for Spivak too, because if you look even before that streak I'm talking about, he got TKO'd in his debut in the UFC in 50 seconds to Walt Harris.
Yeah.
Then he submitted Tai Tuivasa at UFC 243. That was in Australia.
Hmm.
And then got a decision loss to Marcin Tibura. So some of these
Yeah.
names we're kind of throwing in here.
Yeah.
He has fought, but this is like 2019, February 2020 for Tibura.
Yeah.
I mean, is that an indicator of how that fight would go today? I don't know. But
Hmm.
I think, Gane's limitations have been exposed on such a huge scale, but I don't think he's alone in having those limitations. Like
Yeah.
Tuivasa, Derek Lewis,
Yeah.
these guys, are they really are those is Ciryl Gane a worse defensive grappler than either of those two guys?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe,
Yeah.
but
That's a great point.
yeah.
Who he's fought compared to them. It's been easier for people to nitpick Gone as opposed to these other guys.
100%. All right.